Okay guys, so what's on my mind today? Guilt. Okay guys, let's get into this. The United States of America would have you think that it does not believe in collective guilt, but this is 100% incorrect. The United States does indeed believe in collective guilt. When over 100,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated in internment camps during World War II because of Executive Order 9066, the survivors received an apology and reparations from the United States of America. After a decade-long campaign, the Japanese American community won a congressional approval for a law, the Civil Liberties Act, signed by President Reagan in 1988, which paid each surviving victim $20,000 in compensation to try to right a wrong. It is not bombastic nor grandiose to say that the ancestors of many Black Americans suffered far more significant losses concerning life, liberty, dignity, and the pursuit of happiness than any of our fellow incarcerated Japanese Americans. If the pain and indecency suffered by our fellow Japanese American were considered a 10 on the suffering scale, if there was such a thing, then the ancestors of many Black Americans suffered 1,000,000 times worse. It is also noteworthy that this nation not only apologized to those Japanese Americans, thus admitting its collective guilt, but the United States of America also paid them reparations. The reparations were intended to provide some restitution for Japanese Americans suffering and injustice during World War II. They were also meant to acknowledge the past wrongdoing and demonstrate the nation's commitment to justice and the protection of civil liberties. Millions of Americans were responsible for paying these reparations promised in 1988 in the form of taxes, despite not being involved in the decision in 1942 to incarcerate Japanese Americans at all. The collective guilt of this country was responsible for such an awful act, thus requiring all Americans to bear the culpability or blame for such an appalling decision, even after several generations had passed. So why pay the ancestors of enslaved people? I think that's a fair question. Here's the answer. This country promoted, allowed, and they made it legal. But its most essential flex, this country made it profitable to enslave my ancestors. I am, and millions of others like me, are all that remain. I am the amalgamation of this country's rancid, vile decision to make my ancestors profitable. My enslaved ancestors are dead, but I am their voice, I am their face, I am the proof of this country's deed. I am the bill that is marked overdue, and it is time for this country to pay its debt for the capture and enslavement of my ancestors, the foundation of this country. The founders of this country purposely set this nation on a path of oppression, subjugation, enslavement, and disenfranchisement of a group of African people that committed no act of war against this country. They committed no act of invasion. They violated no treaties against this country, nor did this group of people try to achieve economic or territorial gains from this country, nor did they try to change the religion of this country's people. But this country sought to uphold the vile practice of chattel enslavement for no other reason than capitalism. This country's practice of chattel enslavement benefited the federal, state, and local economies. Also, banks and other institutions benefited from this. Those Africans that were brought here for enslavement became the nation's foundation and scaffolding. They grew the wealth of this country without benefiting from the growth or wealth. They were brought here against their will to work in the fields for the capitalist system of this government. Okay, you guys have a good day. Peace out.